You are now listening to Bull Hook Golf, an unfiltered golf podcast taking you inside the ropes with unfiltered stories, insights, analysis, and exclusive interviews. Welcome back, everybody, to Bull Hook Golf, the podcast. This is episode number 84, the Ryder Cup rundown that just concluded. So my name's Matt Cook. We've got PGA Tour caddy legend who caddies for SH Kim, Mr. Bobby Brown. And Bobby, tonight we've got a great episode to where it doesn't get much better than the Ryder Cup, but being able to do a little, well, we'll call it Tuesday evening quarterbacking here, not the Monday morning, but Tuesday evening quarterback. And this is going to be fun to break it all down. Let's get into it right off the bat because we're going to be talking about the Ryder Cup. We're going to recap that. We're going to get into all of the drama that went on. And then also we're going to talk about where you're at this week, which is the Sanderson Farms Championship. And then we've got a little Korean news as well towards the end of the episode. So we'll hit upon all of this, but let's kick it off with the Ryder Cup rundown. First of all, what was your take on this year's Ryder Cup in terms of Europe beating the U.S. that badly, which it could have been much worse?
Yeah, it could have been much worse. I mean, it was in a word disappointing. I mean, extremely disappointing I will say this, Matt. I woke up 1:30 every morning, turned it on. Well, actually, turned it on at one. I shouldn't say I woke up because I really never went to sleep. So I watched every minute you could possibly watch, but I will take you back to when they announced the first session teams for Friday morning. And I immediately mumbled myself, we're going to be down three points or 4 points immediately. I couldn't believe who he sent out early. Listen, I'm not talking shit about Zach. I'm no captain or anything like that, but man, you got an away game, you got to send out your horses first, right? You don't send fucking Sam Burns out first, I'm going to go back on my words, and I'm going to say one thing right now. How Dustin Johnson's not on that team, I have no fucking idea whatsoever. DeChambeau and Patrick Reed, who gives a shit about? Patrick Reed wasn't at Wesleyan Straits, DeChambeau was, but, and DeChambeau obviously won the second live event way too late once the teams were already picked, so everybody can shut up about that. Rules are rules. But why don't you send out Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka in the very first match? You send out your – we didn't have very many horses other than Max, but you send out your horses, and you send out your horses first and try and get some points, not this – Scotty Scheffler and his best friend Sam Burns, and I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked at the first.
I knew we were in trouble. Pairings. I was with you. I saw those pairings come out for Friday morning, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh shit, we have some trouble in paradise." Because one, Scotty Scheffler and Sam Burns have not played well together, and
they got skunked. They got skunked at the President's Cup, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they get skunked?
They did not. They do not play well together. So it's like, why run them out there? I get the whole pods and all this stuff in terms of grouping people together. And, Scotty Scheffler and Sam Burns are best friends, but their games do not mesh well together as a team. And that's where, what are you doing? And then you're sending out two rookies. You're putting out Brian Harman and Max Homa in that second group. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you throw those rookies. You throw those rookies out in the second session, right? Once everything started and they're a little bit more comfortable, and they've maybe walked a few holes with the team and rooted them on and seen what they're in for and that kind of stuff. But my quote to myself was literally, "What the fuck is he doing? What the fuck is he doing?" And it's not him making that. It's just not his decision to make. I mean, Fred's in his ear, Strick's in his ear, Furyk's in his ear, Sink's in his ear. They think about these kind of things, and they consult each other before they make these kind of things. But man, I felt like before we were in a big hole, I felt like we were going to be in a big hole, and I was right, 4-0. And it's tough to come. It's almost impossible to come back from that, as that was proved. So it was just very disappointing.
Well, was he listening to his assistant captains? Because Freddie Couples had another great one talking about how Oh gosh, what was the second quote that he had stating that somebody was going to play in every single one of the matches? Oh shoot, I forget.
Well, he was doing that walk and talk. He was doing a walk and talk with John Wood, and he didn't say every single match. He said 4 matches. Remember, so that's 4 out of 5. That's 4 out of 5 matches. But
Who was it that he was
you get
talking
somebody like
about?
Dustin. I think he was talking about 2 or 3 different guys, wasn't he? I think he was talking about. I think he was talking about JT, Kepka, and Cantlay.
Okay.
I think he was talking about 2 or 3 different guys because I did watch that. I always like buddies with John Wood, and I think he's really great. And he as far as older caddies that have done a ton of Ryder Cups, that's like everything for John Wood. The Ryder Cup, he'd surrender all the wins that he'd have on the bag to be on winning Ryder Cup team. So he's very patriotic in that way, and he's very enthused, let's say. But man, I was just bummed.
Well, on the flip
I was
side,
just bummed.
on the flip side with Luke
Yeah.
Donald as captain, I was super
Yeah.
impressed with him. I love the
Oh,
strategy that he put together where
what a
he
speech.
paired the
What about
rookies
that
with the
speech?
best guys.
Yeah, of course he did. He paired a rookie with I have to apologize. I was kind of calling Bobby McIntyre the weak link out there, and on paper he was the weak link. But you put him with a guy with Justin Roses, who this is old hat to, so to speak, and he's mentoring him and making him feel comfortable as he goes along. But I'm just going to start with Luke Donald's speech at the opening ceremonies. It just blew me away. And it's funny. I was talking to Camilo and Luke are best friends, and Camilo's playing this week where we are here in Jackson, Mississippi. And Camilo was telling me that Luke learned Italian in the last couple months so he could make that speech, and he was reading all kinds of strategy books and this and that. He said that Luke read something like 25 to 35 books in the last year to get ready for this thing. I mean, A++ for him.
He crushed it.
And
The partnership that I loved the most was actually Hovland and
Yeah.
Oberg. Those two,
Yeah,
I mean,
great.
you put
Great.
the hottest golfer in the world right now in terms of he's playing the best out of everybody, Victor Hovland. And then you got Oberg, which is the new guy in town, the one that was the big question mark. So there's a ton of pressure up against him.
Yeah.
And you just let Hovland go ahead and take all that pressure and literally ease this kid into the Ryder Cup. I thought that was brilliant.
Yeah, brilliant. Everything he did was brilliant. I mean, you could summarize it and say they just played better, and then they kicked our ass. I mean, that's pretty much the bottom line. They just play better. They kicked our ass. They had the home court, home field advantage, whatever you want to say. But it was very disappointing. Like I said, I can't say it enough. His first morning session picks, the foursome picks, which historically we have played pretty decent in, and four ball wasn't always our specialty, but it was, I'm still a little bit surprised that it was the way it was. I mean, obviously there was 45 minutes or 30 minutes there where, those red flags started going up and those matches could have gone either way. But man, it's so funny now that we can sit and me and you can armchair quarterback with the best of them, right?
I love it.
That's what we do. But and I'm in shell shock over our United States social media people, Dan Rappaport, Dylan Dethier, all these guys. They shit on our guys more than European press shits on our guys, and that just disgusts me. I know that's what they're paid to do and everything like that, but part of me still thinks that if you're American, you're obviously rooting for the Americans, but I just feel like they didn't need to go where they went all the time, I mean, maybe that's a problem with our country anyways right now. I don't know. I mean, I might be talking a little bit out my ass right there, but I was thoroughly disgusted with our social media people that cover golf, anything to get clicks, I guess, right, Matt?
That's true.
Like
Well,
clickbait or whatever.
that's the social media world, right? Is you're trying to say the most outrageous things in order to get social media clicks. You're doing it for these like less than a minute clips, and then you're doing it for X or Twitter. So
Right.
that is one of the
Right.
things you certainly see as you go on. And by the way, I did forget to mention our show sponsor, which I'll put it in
Oh
afterwards,
shit.
but I am wearing the Dante hat today. And you started
Okay.
talking about, some of these guys that are over there covering the sport, and like a Dan Rappaport, for instance, and just absolutely shelling on the United States. Well, this Dante hat, this is the ayahuasca slash bufo experience, the toad venom hat, where it's got all the crazy
Hmm.
stuff all over it. It's got mushrooms on here with eyeballs. Great hat. Absolutely love this hat. But that being said, there was no relationship between Dan Rappaport and this hat, but I just wanted to tie those in
Yeah.
together and
Well,
really distract from what ended up being a pretty big bashing by the media of the U.S. team. And then I've got the Ivy hoodie on. I'm going to get you one of these, Bobby,
I
because
like those. I like it.
this one
I like it.
is really sharp. I mean, I think they have 58 reviews on this Ivy hoodie that are all 5 stars. So definitely
I
go on,
believe it.
everybody. Use Pull Hook Golf 25 as your promo code. And that will
Yep.
certainly get you 25% off your entire order at
Boom.
swannies.co. There's the little plug for Swannies. But
Boom.
that going back to the Ryder Cup,
Yeah.
there was some controversy that took place out there, Bobby.
Ooh.
And I want to start off with, I
Yeah.
mean, this season was all about caddies, and you and I have talked about caddies a lot. And there was one big
Yeah.
moment that, unless you were living
Ooh.
underneath a rock, I love that saying,
Wow.
but unless you were living underneath a rock, you saw the incident that took place with Joe LaCava and
Hmm.
Rory McIlroy.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that situation?
I mean, I know I've stayed with Joe numerous times. I know Joe very, 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 very well. And so all I can tell you is something had to happen that we don't know about. Something had to happen because he is a very low key individual. And let me just say this: he's from kind of your
Yeah.
neck of the woods in Connecticut. I nickname him Guido, right? Because he's a Guido. He's an absolute Guido. And when he has an opinion on something, he'll let you know. But he's very calm about his approach and how he addresses certain things that he doesn't agree with. So something happened that day that set him off, and he just couldn't take it anymore. And I got a question for you. Over or under 25 times you rewatched that
Oh,
video?
over.
Over or under? I must have been
Yeah.
100. I wanted to see every single angle. Some of the angles I saw, it looked bad, right? It looked bad, like he shouldn't have done it. And then I saw some pan shots, some other angles and that kind of stuff. And I technically don't think he ever stepped in Rory's
No,
line, to be
he
quite
wasn't in his
honest
line. He
with
was
you.
just close to Rory. And
Yeah, he was very, yeah. So, and hey, listen, that thing is kill or be killed, that whole event, right? And so, Rory could have said something or could have done
I think
something, but
Rory
it
did,
was
because
just,
there was at one point,
yeah,
so Joe was a little ways away from Rory, and Rory was walking behind him.
yeah.
And it looked like, because Joe turned.
Oh no, I meant back up. I meant earlier in the round, Rory might
Oh,
could have said something to stir something, might have stirred something up because I guess for the people that live under a rock need to know that Patrick. There was a bunch of rumors going. The deal is that Patrick was getting extremely harassed for not wearing the
yep.
hat, right? And then Jamie Ware breaks out this story that I've talked to a lot of people that has no merit and no truth whatsoever, probably 6 million clicks or whatever it is, saying that there was a big beef and there was some division inside the team room because they weren't getting paid. Him and Xander were bitching about not getting paid, and that's why he didn't wear the hat. But the fact is that people are going to say, "Oh, the hat didn't fit," and that kind of stuff. If you know anything, well, Patrick said that. If you know anything about Patrick, he is a very anal guy. You know what I mean? If a hat doesn't fit perfectly or doesn't fit right, he's not going to wear it. And he had the same problem at Whistling Straits. So my point is that the fans, the European fans, ran with that and were harassing him all day. And maybe that's what set Joe off.
I think
Honestly, to
so.
tell you the truth,
I do.
I think that's what it was. But the one video I saw a video just here in the last hour of a pan shot, like a ground shot, and there was more space on this video than it looked like on other videos from Joe's a
Yeah.
badass,
You know,
right? Joe's an
Shane
absolute.
Lowry realized that in a hurry.
Yeah, I don't think Shane Lowry likes to drink and party, and Northern Ireland guys, Irish guys are tough and that kind of stuff. But I don't think Shane would want any part of Guido, to tell you the truth. And Guido looked like he was ready to throw if it came.
He had some intense eyes, and then you
know?
see Shane Lowry
Yeah,
being like, hang
yeah.
on, hang on, hang on.
Yeah, exactly. So, hey, listen, Joe was obviously, upset about something. He was trying to stir up the crowd. He had probably had enough. And this is a very emotional, passionate event, and it was just like, forget that them thrashing us. That to me was like the big news. That was like the whole Ryder Cup, Joe doing something like that. And Joe's not afraid to express his opinion and tell, and tell people what he thinks about something, and I think after this happened, I think Zach pretty much put the clamps on him and said, hey, you're not going to comment on this. We're going to go out there and play golf on Sunday, and we're just going to let this be. And I can hardly wait to, I'm not going to see Joe for a while, and I sure don't want to be the one, because I'm sure there's a million people. If you know Joe, you're not going to text him, go, bro, give me the scoop. What happened? He's not going to answer that. But, I'm sure it's funny. We don't have the strongest field here this week in Jackson, Mississippi. So there's nobody there that was on campus that could give me any kind of information. And God knows I tried to get some information out of some guys, and John Wood, who was there doing the commentating and that kind of stuff. But John Wood's like, hey, I don't really feel comfortable saying, him and Joe are best buddies. I don't really feel comfortable speaking for Joe, but I'm going to try and get to the bottom of it here in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and hopefully we can revisit it and go back on that. But I'll tell you, I was shocked. I felt like he did overstep his boundaries, honestly, to tell you the truth. I do know Rory enough to know that he can be a little bitch, to be honest with you. And most of those guys can be, but I was a little shocked that it went as far as it went. And then when Joe went to the back of the green, he started mouthing back to Lowry and Rose and Justin Rose. He had a look that I've never seen in Joe LaCava's eyes ever before. And then obviously that thing escalated into the parking lot, and I feel like,
how about that? The Golf Channel cameras being live and in the parking lot was perfect.
Yeah. Perfect time. And Bonesy's like the great mediator with everybody, right? He doesn't like conflict. He tries to calm everybody down and get their wits about themselves, and I felt like Rory was playing badass because Lowry was there. If Lowry wasn't standing right there, I don't know if Rory would have fired at him and that kind of stuff. But it didn't look, maybe I'm wrong, but in my opinion, it didn't look very classy on Rory's part to have a go at Bones over something like that, when Bones was probably trying to just calm everything down.
So I also watched that one like 30, 40 times. And
me too.
Here's the thing.
Too.
It didn't look like he was yelling at Bones. It looked like he was yelling to somebody to the left of Bones, and that wasn't in the picture.
Yeah.
Which might have been LaCava.
Yeah. It might have been. I haven't. That's what you would assume, right? But you got to remember this too. When there's a longer video. Did you see the longer video that when the camera went to Bones and he walked around the sidewalk to his car?
No,
did you happen to see
didn't
that
see
one?
that one.
There was no LaCava in sight. So I think my theory is that maybe Bones approached him and said, hey man, everything's good, and he was trying to put out a little bit of a smoldering fire or something like that. And then Roy teed off on him, because I watched that Pancha, the other video of Bones walking away, and you got to understand that Bones and Joe are very close, right? They are the two most successful caddies of all time, in PGA Tour history, and they're very close, and they stay together quite a bit, and they josh each other quite a bit, joke around and fuck around and that kind of stuff, So I think Bones was getting Joe's back, and remember I was telling you. Those old school caddies are very protective of their players,
like bodyguards.
Right? There you go. We talked about that with Bonesy and Napa, and that's how those older school caddies are. They are very protective of their players for obvious reasons. They don't want anybody getting close. They don't want anybody saying anything that will distract them from hitting a golf shot or whatever they're doing. Autograph seekers or anything like that. They're a different breed. Those old school guys are very, very protective, and they're very tough. They're very tough on people, and they're very tough on the crowds when they get a little bit out of hand. So, man, that was like the whole deal to me. I honestly couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I was I was shocked, to tell you the truth. I was, I read a bunch of social media stuff, and people are just shelling. It's funny, the people that that are American press that they're shelling Joe. That man, you would have to be standing on that green or standing in with that group for 18 holes to figure out to know why Joe was set off. But my instinct just tells me that something bad happened out there, and Joe just snapped, and he just couldn't take it anymore. So hopefully I'll get some more information on something like that. But it sure as hell made a kind of a dead Ryder Cup
It
extremely
really
exciting.
did. I mean, it added some life
Yeah,
to it
that's
because
for sure.
otherwise it was absolutely just a debacle from the U.S. side. Now, talking
Yeah,
about Joe LaCava and his guy, Patrick Cantlay,
yeah.
I mean, there was
Hmm.
nobody as clutch. Now, a quick word from our sponsor. Swannies is here with a fresh take. Performance-based materials are a given these days. But if you're looking for the stretchiest and most lightweight pieces that deliver a look that says, I'm here for a good time, take a walk on the Swannies side. With fabric sourced from recycled plastics and designs sourced from our very own weekend warriors, Swannies is looking out for both our planet and those that need a little style to boost their drive another 15 yards. Premium looks from top to bottom at swannies.co. I would even go on a limb and say there wasn't anybody even on the
Watch any singular match. I mean, let's be honest, the coverage was pathetic, to say the least, with the commercials and everything like that. But I'm pretty sure that that was a not necessarily an NBC feed. I feel like that was a world feed,
Yeah, true.
and that NBC didn't really control what was happening. What did you see in that? What did you
Well,
think
the
about
thing
that?
is, like Cantlay was playing phenomenal golf, and Justin Rose just never went away. And every time it looked
No,
like Patrick Cantlay was going to get 2 or 3 up in the match, Justin Rose made a huge putter, a huge shot, and
right?
just
Yeah,
never went
yeah,
away. And Cantlay
yeah.
never blinked though. Like he stayed the
Well,
entire way, all
well,
the way
that's it.
through.
And that's him. He's that's Patrick Cantlay to a T right there. And and Justin Rose went 1-1-1, 1.5 points, which is nothing on paper spectacular. But the putts that he did make when he had to make them, that was spectacular. And that's how you dominate a Ryder Cup. And hey, listen, I'm going to give my I like Rosie. He's a super nice, polite guy. He does a lot for charity. He does a lot for women's golf. Him and his wife started a tour that's like a notch below what a Corn Ferry tour would be for us to get women started. And he's just the nicest, classiest guy. But what I really like about him is that he's 43 years old, and when all his mates and his whole crew took the money and went to live, he was the one guy that stepped up and said, I am playing golf to play in major championships and to make this Ryder Cup team. And he did it, and I am so stoked that he did something like that. And then instead of taking the man, he would have got 100 million, 60, 80, $100 million too. I mean, he's a huge draw. And honestly, Justin Rose, the way he plays golf, if you put him on the live tour, he's actually maybe a guy that can win 2 or 3 times. To me, I still think he has. I know he went a little bit of slump for a couple years, but he has officially been back for quite a bit after last year to me. So I was super stoked to see him do something like that. And he's been there before. He relishes those big time situations. I mean, for God's sake, he's a major winner that's been on numerous Ryder Cup teams, and he just did a
And what
fantastic
a
job.
pick.
And like, yeah, what a pick! I mean, their captains, their captains' picks were so much better than our captains' picks. And I got to apologize to Bobby McIntyre again, because he went for 2.5 points. Jesus, he didn't lose a match. He went 2-0-1. And I was reading that he was basically in tears walking to the first tee, the very first match
He
that
was
he
so
played. So
nervous.
hats off to him too. I mean, honestly, hats off to the whole. I ran into to Ludwig's caddy. Ludwig's
Yeah,
playing
I
there
was
this week,
shocked.
and Jack. I was shocked too. And Hojgaard was in the field, and he pulled out a couple days ago too. But I ran right into Ludwig's caddy, coming out of caddy dining this afternoon, and I'm like, man, that had to be exciting. He's like, man, I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And you know, once the dust is settled and everything like that, everybody's cool with each other, and it's, you know, congratulate. You know, I have no problem congratulating a European W, but I didn't get any scoop on that party afterwards. But I don't think it was as
Hang
good
on a
as
second. Did you
I
see?
don't.
All right. So talking about the party, Terrell Hatton,
Yeah,
3 a.m.
yeah,
with the
yeah.
with the
The
glasses
glasses.
on.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know that there
yeah.
was some extracurricular performance enhancing drugs that were
I don't know.
either,
I don't know.
because you know
I
that
don't
he's
know.
not drinking Red Bull vodkas, and to be up until 3 a.m. that is not an
A lot.
easy feat to pull off.
You know those Europeans can drink us
Yeah,
under
but
the table
not
as
after a
Americans, right?
full day and a stressful day at that.
Adrenaline, bro.
Yeah.
Adrenaline, man. I don't. Let me set this record straight. I do not see Terrell Hatton chalking up a big dagger. I just don't know how else to say it. I don't. I'm not saying it's 100% couldn't happen, but I just don't see.
Oh,
I don't
I
see
do.
anybody
I
on
see
that.
Terrell Hatton as just a party
No.
animal. He's got that, and he's got the anger to go along with it. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I
He
this
does,
is
but
pure
I don't see.
speculation, by the way. There's no
Yeah.
inside scoop here whatsoever.
Man, it's funny. I'm looking down the team list of every team right now, and I'm like, man, if anybody did powder on
Some
these
slopes.
teams, there's one or two I can think of, and they don't come on they don't come off the European team.
The
They come off the
U.S.
American team.
side.
That's for
I
sure.
got you.
Well, there was no Dustin wasn't on the team, so there was no
Yeah,
supplier
that's a
there
good
this
point.
year.
But they were in Italy, so you never know. Uh,
Yeah,
Now,
that's
with
true.
that said, Hatton played his ass off.
Yeah,
I was actually shocked that
yeah,
you picked him as your pick,
I did.
and
I had a
that I
feeling.
felt like
I had a feeling.
that was an insider pick right there, folks, because you knew Bobby,
Yeah,
but I didn't see him as this great match play player who was going to be a team guy and all this. And then I was completely wrong. I'll be the first one to admit
yeah.
that after the first
Okay.
day, I was like, oh crap. Like, and he
Yeah,
was getting paired with Victor in that
yeah.
second in the second group, which I was like, son of a gun, because I had Victor Hovland, you had Hatton. Hovland was exactly what Hovland has been. So he was just
Yeah,
dominant the entire
stud.
time. He got let down a little bit by Oberg in the second time they played together, which was,
Yeah, but it still was but it was still a
no,
half
he
though.
lost.
You
He
know,
lost
they
that
didn't.
one.
Oh,
Yeah,
he did. He did
he
lose.
lost one match.
Oh, okay, okay. Gotcha. I thought he had. I thought he had. Okay, he only played in 4 matches and he got 3.5 points. So you tell me where he
No, hang on a
lost.
second. He played in all five.
Who?
No,
Terrell
Hovland.
did?
Oh, we're talking about two
Oh,
different people.
Hovland. Oh, okay. Well, I still have Hovland going 3-0-1
Hang on.
also.
Let me pull it up
You
here.
want to check those
I'm
notes? I got you again, buddy. I
I'm
got you
checking
again.
real quick. But ta-
I thought John Rahm was the only one that played 5 matches on their team.
let's
I
double
was pretty
check.
sure
So
of it.
Hovland we got in the
Okay.
mornings. In the afternoon we had a Hovland who had the tie. And then Saturday morning we had Hovland. And then Saturday afternoon we had Hovland. So Saturday afternoon. So Hovland played all five.
I'm gonna have to double
But
check
I have
on
the
you.
Ryder Cup app up.
Oh,
Yeah.
you do? Okay, because maybe I just wrote it. Maybe I wrote it down. Maybe I wrote it
Yeah,
down
because the
wrong.
only one he lost was with Oberg with Sam against Sam Burns and Colin Morikawa, which that
Okay.
was the match to where Colin Morikawa played phenomenal for once.
Yeah.
Colin
Who did?
Morikawa.
He
Yep,
did?
with Sam Burns. Sam Burns came out hot out the gates and then kind of in the middle of the round, and
Yeah.
Morikawa took over, and I think, God, he was like 5 or 6 under in the middle of the round.
Okay, you say. Okay, so he played incredible in one
Yeah.
match, and that doesn't mean jack shit to me because that's the only point he
Yeah.
got. Right? He went 1-3. Yeah, he went 1-3. And fucking Sam Burns went what,
Yeah.
1-2.
That was the only match, but guess what? Those two played well together.
Yeah, yeah, no, they did. They did. They absolutely, and they needed to, right? They absolutely needed to. I like to see a little fire in front of, Sam Burns when things were going on with the old, I can't fucking hear you, and that kind of stuff. And that's what the Ryder Cup's all about, but it's a bloodbath, Matt. It was a fucking
It was
bloodbath.
not pretty. And once again, going back to the Europeans, because Rory McIlroy played great. Hatton played great.
Yep.
Hovland played great.
Yep.
Fleetwood played great.
Tommy
John Rahm played.
great.
I don't even think John Rahm played great. I think he played average.
I mean, he didn't lose a match.
No, but he
right?
should have. He should have actually beaten up on Caddie Schauffele in that final match.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they ended up having that one, right? I mean, you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You can go 7. You can go 7 deep. Rory, Terrell, Hovland, Tommy, John Rahm, McIntyre, Auberg. They all played fantastic. There's your bulk of your points right there. Minimum was 2 points by Auberg right there, and Lowry won 1 and 1 for 1.5 points. Rosie made the putts when he needed to. Matt Fitzpatrick was a little disappointing. Played 3 matches. I think he went 1 and 2.
Matthew Fitzpatrick is not good in this Ryder Cup format.
He might be a little soft for this thing. He might be. I don't know that for sure, but he might be a little soft for this thing. Obviously, Sepp got a point. He went 1 and 2. But you didn't expect a lot out of Sepp. And I guess the bigger disappointment was Nicholas Hojgaard didn't get a point, did he? I think he got a half a point. Yeah. But my math comes up with about 16.5 points, and that is just about enough to get that job done. That's for sure.
It definitely was enough to get the job done. I'm also, as I look at this entire thing, I'm going, man, the Europeans, they just all came together and meshed so nicely to where then you go to the U.S. side. How do you only play Brooks Koepka in 3 matches?
I have no idea. I think there's validity to the rumor that there was a mini COVID going around that USA team room, because I know Ricky was sick as a dog. Ricky only, very disappointing, didn't get a point. When they only play a guy like that in 2 matches, he was sick. But that rumor was going around that I call it mini COVID, that they were sick and nobody was feeling good, which I understand. I understand if you're not feeling good and you're getting sick, and I heard from a couple guys today. It ran through all the caddies too, but they sucked it up and made it out there and at least showed up for their tee times. But I don't know what to say, but I just feel like with my experience doing it and what I've seen in the past, I just feel like Europe wants it more, right? I don't know. Are we a little prima donna-ish or something?
The age-old,
where's
you don't hear anybody on the European side ever talking about the fact that they need to get paid for this. And that happened on the U.S. side once again.
But that's Ogre doing that. And we call him Ogre. That's Xander's dad. And if you ever met Xander's dad, he was an Olympic athlete in the past, but he's a little kooky. He's a little kooky upstairs. He's a funny guy. You can tell that he smokes a lot of weed. You can actually tell he smokes a lot of weed, believe it or not. Not that that's a bad quality, but man, everything that he's saying about that, it's funny. It's funny. My one comment after reading the article that came out, and I've read a few of them this evening about him, and the only thing I got to say is it's a privilege to play in a Ryder Cup. When did it become about we should get paid? When should it be?
I feel like throughout the years, like Tiger has been quoted talking about it, David Duval, Marco Mira, I don't know if Phil was one of them that was talking about it, but it's always kind of been this thing with the U.S., and the only thing that I can kind of see is actually what Xander's dad was talking about, which he goes, the PGA of America uses this money and the PGA Tour gets 20% that goes into the retirement for every member. So the 12 players supposedly just need to eat it, and their intellectual property gets abused for the benefit of 200 other people. That's not right. So I get that side of it to where, all right, yes, they are using their likeness. They are using them as the team to like sell all this purchase merchandise and everything. And a lot of that money goes to not only the PGA Tour, but the PGA of America, and then to some charities. The one thing he did say in addition to that is he wanted it to be to where the players could pick their charitable causes as well. And that way,
which they do.
He made it sound like they
causes.
don't have an option.
He's wrong. He's wrong. I know for a fact that they do pick. They do get to pick what charities that their money go to. And I was telling you, when I did it with Dustin before, it was 50 grand. Now it's 200 grand. But let me tell you something. Once you make it to the PGA Tour, and that was Phil's big bitch. You don't own your likeness anymore, right? That goes with the territory of hitting.
Well, that was his whole thing with Live Golf was the media rights, and that you don't own any of your media rights.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't own your likeness, but to me, I just feel like it's a privilege. And honestly, I don't think if Liv doesn't come around, I don't even think that becomes an issue, right? Because the big thing with Phil and going to Liv was, they're making money off of us. We should get a piece of the pie. And I just feel like that kind of was a little bit they kind of got the fire started. But like I said, Ogre is a little trippy dude, and Xander went on record. He said, "I'm not responsible for anything my dad says." Now, let me tell you something, Ogre. He's got a fantastic sense of humor. He's a funny guy to be around. He's around his kid all the time. He started in playing the golf. He obviously was an Olympic athlete himself before he got a very bad injury. And he's like a walking comedian when you hear him out there. You should hear him and Austin Kaiser, Xander's caddy, go on at it. They go at it constantly all the time. And he's always telling him to shut up and that kind of stuff. But that's just, that's you want to know something? That's a dad saying something that he probably shouldn't be saying about his 29-year-old son. It's not about him. Does he have some valid points? Yes, of course he has some valid points, and that's probably something that they're going to address in the future. But man, it's just a privilege to be there and be part of that team. That's what I thought. But maybe that's the difference between Americans and Europeans. The Europeans probably take it as a privilege because you don't hear this shit out of the Europeans about getting more money and wanting to have a piece of the pie.
You definitely don't. I've never heard it come from the European side.
No. And they just, they kicked our ass. I mean, that's the bottom line. And they just mesh better. And I just feel like they want it more than we want it. And our guys are like a little bit like this.
How about the other side to this, which was the Netflix documentary crew? They wanted access, and apparently, I mean, and this comes from that article as well with Schauffele's dad. He said that Cantlay and Xander didn't want the player agreement amended so that Netflix documentary crew, because they didn't want them to have access to filming the Full Swing series for which because those two are not in it. So they wouldn't be compensated, obviously, because of it. So that started a whole thing to where then later on, Zach Johnson said the team voted unanimously to keep the cameras out, preserve the actual quote was the sanctity and the sacredness of the team room. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I understand that. I understand that. This is not, I don't feel like this was part of the Netflix documentary, to tell you the truth. I feel like this new season of the Netflix documentary, they're heavily weighing on guys trying to keep their cards and keeping their status. Like Wesley Bryan's going to be a big part of this one. Who gives a shit about him, right? And Ryan Palmer's also a huge part of this, an aging veteran who's trying to hang on for dear life. So that's a lot of it too. But a part of me, to answer that question, I feel like, their best buddies, Cantlay and X, and I feel like, Cantlay is a very cerebral guy, and I don't think he gives a shit about what anybody thinks about him. But I almost feel like he loads. I don't have no validity or basis for this, but I feel like he loads Xander's lips a little bit in those kind of things. So it might have came from him, but I didn't think that was wrong. That team room is very private. You know what I mean? There are coaches, players, caddies, and spouses in there only. That's it. Only. You don't even see the big wigs of the PGA of America very rarely rolling through there. There's a very close, when those doors close, those doors are closed and nobody else comes in and nobody else listens to, what's going on inside that team room. But I can't help but think in that team room that we need somebody to get in there that's going to really just, when you get off to that kind of start, that is really just going to hammer down, you know what I mean? And that's not Zach Johnson's personality, that somebody's going to get up there and lose their shit and start yelling and screaming at guys like a football coach would do to motivate, like Tom Brady would do to motivate. You know my feelings on those kind of things. I get jacked up on those, and I think that we were very much missing that from our team. You know, we didn't look like we had any pizzazz,
We
so to
looked
speak.
scared day one. I mean, Max Homa looked terrified out there. And then Wyndham Clark coming down 18, which Wyndham Clark looked great. But then coming down 18, all of a sudden, there's level of confidence, folks. And there's a level of confidence that will carry you through a lot of things. And I think he's gotten a lot of validation with the Wyndham Championship win and then, you know, getting the U.S. Open win. He felt very confident coming into it. We talked about his comments last week. But then that approach shot, because he striped the tee shot right down the middle of that tiny fairway on 18. And then all of a sudden, just an absolute block cut out to the right that ends up in the crowd. Then the little chip/pitch shot that he had to hit, was god awful. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? This is actually a good thing for Wyndham Clark to know, hey, I need to still achieve another level in order to get there.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say that. I feel, he made a point and a half, right? He went 1-1-1. That's a decent showing for a rookie, for sure. But I feel like this is part of just like you said, this is part of Wyndham Clark's learning process on how to handle Ryder Cups, because it's very rare that you send a rookie out that goes for 3 points and 4 points. Look over the years, it really just doesn't happen. Honestly, like I told you with Dustin in 2012, he made 1 point, if I'm not mistaken, and that was from winning his singles match, and he obviously, 5 points at Whistling Straits, and he was sorely missed on that team. Reed and DeChambeau, I could give a shit about, but I think Dustin was. How would you like to? We were talking about this before. How would you like to send Dustin Johnson and Brooks Koepka out, or Dustin Johnson with any of those guys, including Brian Harman?
What about
going out in the
if you had DJ on the team and you threw out, instead of Sam Burns and Scotty Scheffler, you throw out DJ and Scotty Scheffler?
Yeah,
who's touching them?
Dustin. Listen, Dustin gets nervous like everybody else, but he doesn't show like he's nervous, right? Nothing phases him, and this would have been his 5th Ryder Cup or something like that, So, that was probably a bogey on Zach's point. Not, you just can't. I don't know if I made comments in the past about this, but Dustin Johnson or Sam Burns, Dustin Johnson or Ricky Fowler, Dustin Johnson or Jordan Spieth. Come on, it's not even close. Jordan Spieth looked like a fucking 10 handicap out there.
JT actually looked decent, but Jordan Spieth
looked pathetic.
Did not have it. He is not in form. And he's been wild all year in terms of like just his entire game. And then he gets up and down like crazy. This was not that. This was just he did not look good at all. And I appreciate the fact that he tried to just, bring it in for that final match. And then those couple final holes coming in, he just fell apart again.
He was flipping that match on Sunday. He was flipping that match, and then those bogeys. He was exposed. Can I go on the record of saying something? Dustin, we've seen the best of Jordan Spieth's golf. We saw the good years of Jordan Spieth, and everybody can argue with me, but I don't see. I could be wrong. I've been wrong a million times before, but I just don't see, from what I've been seeing recently out of Jordan Spieth.
No, he doesn't have that moxie that he had.
He's too weird.
He lost that moxie.
He doesn't have the confidence. He's tweaky. He's really tweaky out there, second guessing everything, and he's not the same player that he was when he was winning those majors, when he burst onto the scene. And you could say he's one of the greatest American players of all time. I mean, he's not that upper echelon, but what a wonderful career that he's had. But
he was on such a pace, Bobby. And then all of a sudden, 12 at Augusta. And there is something to be said with confidence levels to where he hasn't gotten it back since that time. He needs to almost reprogram himself mentally in order to let that go.
Well, he's a mental wreck. he's a mental wreck. You can hear that with Michael
True.
with Greller. Listen, Michael Greller didn't get all those gray hairs and look this old from.
It's like a
caddying.
president when they find out all the secrets of the United States, and then they come out and they look 10 years older.
Yeah, yeah, I know. So he to me was just he looked like a 10 handicap to me. I mean, there were numerous disappointments on the American team, but we should start with the shining guys, and that was Max. You know what I mean? Max really showed who he was.
And after the first day to where he looked terrified. He looked awful.
Horrible, yeah.
And then he came back and became the guy for the United States team.
Yep.
That takes a lot.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I think Patrick had held his own out there, 2-2, getting a couple points. You know, I think Brian Harmon was a shining star. He looked horrible right off the bat.
I wasn't that impressed with Harmon. I know he's your guy.
He got a couple points. Listen, I know he's my guy, but I'm going to go back to what I said a few minutes ago. If you're a rookie and you get a couple points, you've done your job. I feel like you've done your job. I mean, I'm not going to give Justin Thomas an A, but I'm not going to give him a
B+
C either. Yeah, he hung in there 1-2-1 for 1.5 points. Wyndham Clark, you know, I felt like he did his job. I feel like Brooks was a big disappointment too. You know, with how many points did he have? With 1.5 points.
But he only played in 3 matches. Yeah,
three matches. I think he was not feeling great either. To be quite honest with you, I think there's some validity to there's some truth to that. These guys got pretty sick, and there wasn't much that they could do. I mean, Sam Burns. I don't even know why he was on the team. Colin Morikawa, I mean, I think we've seen – when was the last time Colin Morikawa won a golf tournament? Any idea? Can I say a couple of years?
I remember the collapse in Hawaii.
Yeah, we all do. I mean, he goes 1-3 for 1 point. Xander was very disappointing, 1-3. He was one of our big 3 guys that I had mentioned. You know, I'd mentioned 3 guys that I thought that if we had a chance to win, it had to be Patrick, JT, and X, you know, to get it done. Scotty Scheffler, I mean, Jesus Christ, he didn't win a match. 0-2-2 with him. Spieth, pathetic, and I can't even shit on Ricky because I know he was pretty sick. And
yeah, he didn't look so hot. I will say this: my guilty instinct tells me that, gosh, I hate to even say this to give this any credence, but.
Yeah,
there's certain guys that are made for this. You talked about it earlier. DeChambeau is one of those guys. Patrick Reed is one of those guys. But Patrick Reed, I'm okay with him not being on the team. But I do think that DeChambeau, if he was on the team, would have been much better than the majority of the picks.
Yeah. But remember this. The teams are picked at a certain time, and when you pop and you win, you know.
I'm not taking his tournament win as anything. I'm just saying in general that I think he could have actually been one of those guys because he's not one of just because he's so mathematical about everything. He's not somebody that folds, and he loves that environment of being under the match play pressure and all that. Like he doesn't fold to that type of environment. So I feel like he's one of those guys that in the last Ryder Cup really came into his own and became Mr. USA. You know what I mean? So that's why I say I would have loved to see him and DJ on the team, and I think it would have been a completely different result.
Reed wasn't on the Whistling Straits team. Nobody wanted. Listen, they don't really want Bryson in the locker room too, but maybe you have to sweep that stuff under the rug if you're not.
Well, and how about Keegan Bradley? We could have had. I mean, if you had those 3 guys, Keegan, DeChambeau, and DJ.
Yeah. Man, I could jockey out a couple guys right now and put in Cam Young and Tony Finau.
Cam Young would have been in that rookie situation though.
Yeah, it's possible, but I mean, it's all hindsight. You can't predict what he would have done in that situation, you know. But he's a tough man out there. I've been paired with him before. He stays in his own lane.
I would have liked to see Finau instead of, like a Morikawa.
You know what's funny is that I came across this stat, and granted, he wasn't close to making it on points, Finau. But did you know since the last Ryder Cup, Tony Finau's won 4 times on the PGA Tour and still didn't qualify?
That's weird.
Right? And I know he's been. You know, I'm not starting to buy into this Maybe part of me does into this into this on form stuff. You know what I mean? I want to go with the power players and the bombers and the guys with the egos who think their shit doesn't stink and you're not going to beat me today and you guys aren't taking us down. I think I would rather play that card than the on form
I
card,
think
so
it
to
comes down to
speak. You
confidence.
know,
I
and
think you're spot on. And it comes
yes,
down to
yeah,
having a level of belief in yourself that in
yeah,
those moments you
yeah,
want it. It's like Michael Jordan at the end of the game, he wanted
yeah,
the ball every single time. There's some guys that don't want the
yeah,
ball. They're going to tell you they want the
yeah.
ball, but they don't.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of wanting the ball, and I'll tell you what, I know Brooks is a horse and everything like that, and he's not lacking in any of those departments. You can check all those boxes. But I certainly did not like the comment when he was in his presser when they said, "Listen, there's 24 guys here, and if it comes down to one guy making the putt, everybody's going to say, winning the last hole and making a putt, everybody's going to say, I want to do it, I want the ball." And Brooks, and they asked Brooks about that. And they said, how many guys, everybody would naturally answer that, but how many guys would really want to do that? And do you hear what Brooks said? He said, very few. And I felt that was slamming his own
It was. And
teammates
the
right
weird
there,
thing is he's
you know?
got this ego and persona that he doesn't need to do that. Like that's not,
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
believe that's his ego talking. That's not him
yeah,
as a
yeah,
person that's buddies with all these guys and
yeah,
everything and trying to
yeah,
build them up as a team.
yeah,
Like that's not that. He's trying to get, that
yeah.
clickbait and everything. And we've seen it because he even had the guys all dress up in the t-shirts, the Smash GC shirts. And did you see that and saying
Yeah, I didn't
making
like
money
that. I didn't
moves?
like, yeah, I didn't. Yeah, yeah. Well, of course, because he can't. Those shirts are going to end up in TJ Maxx here in about a year anyway. So Ross dressed for less. He had to give them away. But I mean, come on, Brooks. You're not Bo Jackson. He thinks he's Dion, or he thinks he's Bo Jackson, or he thinks he's LT or somebody like that, and he's not that. You're a fucking golfer, man. You're going to be in the Hall of Fame. You've won 5 fucking majors. Unfucking believable. But don't. It rubs me wrong, that song and dance, because I knew him
Yeah.
before all this kind of stuff, and he was a laid back, cool, funny guy with a sense of humor. And now
Now he's got that
now
persona,
he's
that
now
ego. And it's like,
yeah, now he would have been a professional in anything that he would have been a world class baseball or football player. I don't buy that shit. We were all great soccer players and baseball players when we were 12, weren't we,
I was
Matt? We all
fantastic.
were. We all yeah, we all made all-star teams.
I mean,
Big
if there's
deal.
anybody that needs to smoke some bufo and the toad venom, it's
Yeah,
Brooks Koepka.
yeah,
Start to
yeah, no
understand that it's
doubt,
bigger
no
than just
doubt.
yourself, my friend. Now,
Yeah, yes, sir.
the last thing that we'll end with this, actually, there's 2 things because the first one,
Okay.
my favorite moment out of the entire Ryder Cup
Hmm.
was right behind me, which was the first tee stands. Did you see when they did
Yeah,
"We are the left side, we are the left side of the
yeah,
tee,"
yeah. I
then
did, I
the
did,
center, and
I
then the
did, I
right,
did.
and then
Yeah,
they followed
yeah,
that up on the bus after in the victory. The European team, they're like, "We
yeah,
are the left side
yeah,
of the bus."
yeah. And we are the right side. And then I didn't like that little. What was the song? Rory was
Oh, Mook didn't like that either.
the
Our
the
Australian.
Americans are terrified. The Americans are terrified. The Europeans or whatever. I just thought that was like, but I've been on, I've been on those. I haven't been on those buses with the victory and that kind of stuff, but I've been on those buses before, and it gets a little bit funny, and guys' senses of humor come out and that kind of stuff. But I don't know. That personally just rubbed me the wrong way. But I will say this: wait till we get to fucking Bethpage Black, because there's going to be hell to pay. There's going to be
I
brawls
can't
out
wait for
there.
Beth
Can
Page.
you,
I already sent
you
a
know,
text. So, my buddy Sean, who's my best friend, he's from Scotland. So he's from St. Andrews. And I already told him, I go, we have to be at Bethpage. He was my co-owner at Golf Pros
you have to.
NYC. And I'm like, we've
Yeah,
got to
you
be
have
out
to.
there because you can wear
Yeah,
your European stuff. But my God,
yeah.
bring that same energy when the U.S. is at Bethpage.
Listen, listen. These European fans wearing European shit, they might not want to do that at Bethpage Black, because they might get their ass. You know how it goes there. They might get their asses kicked. There's an old story. There's an old story that we had an old time caddy here. He is since long retired. His name's Jerry Higginbottom, an American caddy, and he had Sergio when in his very early years, and he told me a story about he got jumped. He got jumped in, I don't even know where it was. It was in the United States, but a bunch of Americans got him in the corner and jumped him because he was an American caddying for Sergio, and they don't like Sergio, and he got the shit beat out of him, and I could just see something like that. I will tell you what. There are obviously Adam Hayes is a good buddy of mine. He's John Rahm's caddy, and you get fired up. Dewey, who works for Sepp Straka, and I really don't see Sepp. I could be wrong, because I shouldn't say this, but if Sepp Straka was, I'll say it this way: if Sepp Straka was never on another Ryder Cup team, I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly,
I'm with you with that. He looks like a
I wouldn't be
softie.
surprised. Yeah, but I wouldn't want to be an American caddying for a European at Bethpage Black, And I'll tell you what, there's big rumors going around that Tiger maybe Tiger will be our captain.
I don't like that. I want Tiger to be our captain when we go back over to Europe.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll take both.
Have there ever been back-to-back captaincies?
That's a good question. I really don't. I don't know. I don't know that. I can't really answer that. I'm going to say I don't think so, to tell you the truth. There's a big story going around that Sergio will be the captain next year. I heard from some pretty good sources today, and I'm not going to mention any names, that Sergio is out. That he is out, and he is not going to be allowed to be a part of the Ryder Cup. And they're really good sources. So I wouldn't. The New York people don't like Sergio anyways. He's a little bitch on the golf. He's a great guy off the golf course, but he's a little bitch. He's a little bitch on the golf course, And your people, those people of yours in Bethpage, they don't like that. They don't like those little bitchy guys. So
we don't deal well with the weak. That's for sure.
I will say this: we kicked their ass at Whistling Straits, 19-9, and they just. This one was a little closer, but it wasn't really that much closer. So we'll see what happens. But I think that we're gonna actually. I think we need to change some players on that team. Maybe get Spieth out of there and a couple.
The personnel
other guys,
was wrong for this year's team. I knew it right as soon as those captain picks came. That's why I told you. And the next part that we'll talk about is our penny bets, which. We tied on, so you had JT, I had Brooks Koepka. We tied on points.
Yeah.
Then you had Tyrrell Hatton, and I had Victor Hovland. We tied on points.
We tied on those.
Those were great picks. By us. And then you had Europe versus US, and obviously I won that one because I took Europe.
Traitor.
Listen, I will take that all day long.
No, I'm only calling you. Listen, I picked first anyway, so you didn't have much choice. You couldn't pick anything.
But I was going with Europe all the way. 100%. I was going with Europe. I thought after the picks and everything that our team, even on paper, we might have looked like the stronger squad, but I'm just like, I don't see it in terms of like what is actually going to take place.
I was talking to my buddy Brian Brandish, who caddies out here. He's working for KH Lee. He worked for Sungjae and he's worked for Siwoo in the past and that kind of stuff. He said he was on a plane flight with Steve Sands coming back from Napa, and they were sitting down having a drink at the airport. And Sandsy said to him, "Who do you like in the Ryder Cup, B?" And he's like, "Oh, I think the Americans are going to throttle him." And Sandsy looked at him and shook his head and he goes, "The Americans are going to get." Here's one of our big golf announcers, and he flat out said it. He said, "I think the Europeans are going to throttle us over there." I just feel like it's not even going to be close. And I know Sandsy's not happy that we lost, but it's funny that one of our big reporters would call that out to tell you the truth. Shit, I mean, I hate to say it, but when Zach announced those first pairings on Friday morning, I'm like, we're fucking done.
I couldn't. We're done I'm still shaking my head because I'm just going. How do you throw out those teams? I just don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. You come out with the power, man. Make a statement with the power.
You have to.
Bring the power out.
I did end up liking the Scotty Scheffler Brooks Koepka pairing.
I did too.
I thought that was cool.
It didn't. Yeah, that was.
But that was
that's definitely
in the afternoon. I think that was the only point we ended, or a half point. It was one of the half points that we got.
Yeah, maybe, but it was very disappointing. All the American wives loved it. They got all their free shit and everything.
Looked like a great party.
TV. Well, yeah, I mean, it looked like it's always.
And then Cantley gets hitched right afterwards. I mean, great call there.
Yep. He just got married
Yeah.
today, didn't he? I think it was today, actually, to tell you the truth. I know a bunch of my caddy buddies are out there on the Amalfi Coast now having a good time. John Ellis, who works for Wyndham Clark, Austin Kaiser. We call it the boy. You think there's boys club. You think there's cliques and boys clubs on the team. There's cliques and boys clubs with the caddies too. So they're out there living the
What's your
high
boy
life
Micah
too. And
doing
I
out
was,
in Scotland right now? He was at King's
what does Billy
Barnes. He
not
was
even
out at
play?
St. Andrews.
Yeah, well, it's the Dunhill. It's
Um,
the version of the AT&T. It's the Dunhill. Billy's been over there playing 3 or 4 different times. So it's funny. I was talking to somebody about that today, and I go, Billy finished 73. Does he not even want to try and get in any of these designated events that are coming up? Like a position that my guy's in at number 56 or number 57, who's inside the number right now, and he's just over there
I
playing the
think he's
European Tour.
enjoying
And
life,
and
bud.
Bill. I think he is. I think it's that part of his career right now where he enjoys going over to Europe. And I honestly probably am going to figure out he's going to play a lot more over there on the DP World Tour next year too. And he does it because he'd be over here if he was really worried about getting
Definitely.
into those designated events. That's for sure. So yeah, Micah's over there. I think they played in France recently too. And Micah brought his wife over. So good for Micah.
Some good golf over there.
He's over there. Yeah, there's some great golf over there, and that Dunhill this week's always a fantastic tournament. It's awesome. It's awesome. The Kings Barnes, Carnoustie, St. Andrews doesn't get much better
That
than
it
that,
does
brother.
not. Bobby, let's talk a little bit
No.
about the Sanderson
Yeah.
Farms Championship, where you
Yes.
are this week in
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Mississippi.
Mississippi. Yes, sir.
Tell me about it.
Well, it's the Country Club of Jackson, which is a head-to-toe Bermuda course. They have not had rain here over
Ooh.
100 days. That should tell you something. They got a lot of water on the golf course right now. It's not playing that firm. I read we get this thing called the green sheet that's printed, and it's going to tell you what the rough cut's going to be, what the greens are going to be stimping at, and they're trying to get them at 13. They were probably at 12 this morning, even with some water on it. But it is a sick golf course. It is an unbelievable golf course. I'm not shitting on Jackson, Mississippi, but if it was anywhere but Jackson, Mississippi, you would hear about it. You would hear about it all the time. Obviously it's not the strongest field on the planet, but we do have Ludwig playing, which is a big thing here, which is a big thing, to come back right back from the
He's gotta be
Ryder Cup
exhausted.
to. Has to be, yeah, has to be exhausted. But he's young, he might be able to power. He might be able to
True,
power
he
his
still
way through.
remembers
But
the
it's
college days.
yeah, it's a fantastic course. It's been hotter than shit the last couple of days. It's been in the mid 90s, right when everything's cooling off everywhere. Not Jackson,
Yeah, it's
Mississippi.
not even that
So
hot out here right now, which I guess it's going to heat back up, but it's been in the 80s.
And we're going to get the opposite. We got a south wind we've been dealing with the last 2 days, and we'll deal with through Wednesday and Thursday, and then it's going to flip and it's going to go straight to a north wind, and temperatures are going to come down to the low to mid 70s and high 40s and early 50s in the morning. So as caddies and players, you'll have to adjust to that. But this Bermuda rough is nasty out here. You get a lot of jumpers. The greens it's in mint shape, Matt. I mean, you can tell there hasn't been any play. There's not one pitch mark on any of these greens. There's no divots in the fairway whatsoever. I feel like they shut this golf course down for a while. I actually rolled in early because I wanted to do my work on my greens on Sunday. They ended up closing the course on Sunday, so I couldn't get out there. They didn't even
let you walk it when it's closed?
No, they don't even let you walk it because they got maintenance out there, and I think they're just trying to protect it a little bit because of the heat and you can tell there's areas of stress or there's a lot of runoffs
with Bermuda,
around
if you're not getting rain, I mean, Bermuda thrives on hot weather, but humid and moist weather with a lot of rain.
It is not. It's obviously not. It's obviously not the greatest field. Mackenzie Hughes won in a playoff last year over Sepp Straka at 17 under. I could be wrong, but I don't think the scores are going to be quite that low because we are really planning on this place firming up after a day or two, and hitting into the rough here is easy to do, so to speak. The fairways are quite tight and quite pinchy, and it's a lot of drivers out here. It's a couple random other tee shots, maybe a 5-wood tee shot on a couple holes, but I think around 14 or 15 under is probably going to get it done. But I'm super excited to be back in action. My guy SH Kim, looks great. Has looked great the last 2 days. The practice routine and the practice with a plan and a practice with a purpose is is back. He went and, he's got an unbelievable short game, but there were a couple things he didn't like. He just spent 2 weeks in Dallas, and he visited with Josh Gregory, who is one of the premier short game coaches, and he's identified how to hit how to add a couple shots to his arsenal. Short-sided shots, out of the Bermuda can be a little tricky. A 60-degree wedge is probably the most overused club by anybody, but tour pros all the way down to 20 handicaps, and you'd be surprised. You get a short side in Bermuda that's just sitting down all the way down to the hard pan, down to the ground, and it's, you see people take out 60s all the time, which, a veteran, somebody with a short game is going to know that it's actually a 56 that you open the face up. And, and there's 3 types of Bermuda lies on short sides around the greens, right? There's the one that's kind of sitting up that you kind of want to hit with a draw path. You don't put too much weight forward. It's kind of a draw path. There's one that we call a half and half. That's half in and half down. And that's more of a 60-40 with your weight forward. And that's also a draw path. And then there's the one that's completely buried down to the bottom. And that's more of a closed face with like a 70-30. Man, whoever is hearing all this is going to, if I help your game, you're going to have to send me $500 because that's what Josh Brady charges. Yeah, and so a short-sided one that's sitting all the way down to the bottom is more of a closed face, and you kind of stab it behind the ball and kind of hold your finish a little bit. So we spent a lot of time doing this. I will tell you, I'm not propping my guy, but obviously he's got a lot of confidence going right now. He finished at 11 under in this tournament last year. He finished 13th, and then the very next week, which we're going next week in Vegas, he finished 4th. So I look for my man to have a really good week. Tell me, other than Auberg, who are the big players in this field?
You got Alex Noren, you got Eric Cole, you got Emiliano Grillo, and then
Grillo. The Grillo's a big draw.
Steven Jaeger.
Grillo will be top
Jägermeister.
And Meisterberger. That reminds me, there's a par 5 out. Grillo was trying to win this thing last year on Sunday and made a 7 and had some problems chipping. That's his Achilles heel. Some of the stuff I just described, and he made a number. I think he made a double or a triple when he was in contention and never rallied. But
wait, he hit it in the creek, didn't he?
Where on 14?
Wasn't it on that one?
On his second. There is a hazard that runs on the left. I wasn't aware.
I'm thinking of the wrong golf tournament.
Yeah, you're thinking of are you thinking of Fort Worth when he hit it in that little creek thing where he ended up winning and the ball was rolling backwards and he
That's
made
right, because he did end up winning still.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about a kind of a hittable par 5 that's got a hazard running down the left here called 14, and I think he went driver fairway wood or something like that, pin high right in a good spot and dumped 2 or 3 chips, and that was all she wrote. But he was in contention, and he'll definitely be. He's well rested. He will be one of the guys to beat. There's always names that sneak up here that you don't think about that are going to play good. But I think I think my guy's going to have a pretty good week. Man, I honestly thought when I was looking at the field and that kind of stuff, and I'm like all these. DraftKings and all these guys that pick people and that kind of stuff. And I'm like, some people got to know that my guy just played really good in Napa and he played really good here last year. And I thought, somebody's going to pick him. I think one guy picked him in a head-to-head matchup, or a couple guys picked him in a head-to-head matchup against Bo Hostler. But I don't think that he got the respect he deserved. And I feel like we're one of the top 10 guys to beat. For sure, one of the top 20 guys to beat.
Is the 2-ball putter still in the bag?
Yes, and the bigger question, the bigger thing that got me excited was he just spent a lot of time last week playing with Tony Romo, and he spent a lot of time with Lee Trevino doing some short game stuff too. So he has been practicing. But the 2-ball is the only putter that made the trip, and that is big news for us. His agent's here with him, Danny O, and it's funny. We watched him yesterday. He was walking by the Odyssey bag and looking at some putters. And Danny goes, "What's he doing?" And I ran right over there and I go, "Get away. Don't even fucking put another one of those putters in your hand." And I told you I was super stoked over his House of Choi putting guy, and he's sticking to all his putting drills and that kind of stuff. He was a little bit I could tell he was a little bit tired today. It was very slow moving out there in the Pro-Am, but it's a sick golf course. It's the Sanderson in Jackson, Mississippi, so it just doesn't get the respect that it deserves. You remember Siwoo and Sungjae used to play here all the time, but now they've elevated, and we'll get into talking about them here very shortly, but they obviously had something big going on for them last week. So maybe we can take advantage of a weaker field, because the fact is, if I don't know if it's going to happen, but if my guy gets himself in contention, he is going to be very comfortable with it now after Napa. That's 100% for sure. And if he could happen to sneak a W out of here in the next couple weeks, and through Japan or something like that, then I think we can probably snatch that Rookie of the Year away from Eric Cole, because he's kind of a shoo-in for that right now. 32 years old, Rookie of the Year, whatever it takes. But that's a big motivating thing for me too. I would love to have a chance to win and have something really good happen, and have my guy be Rookie of the Year. Man, I wonder if anybody's been Corn Ferry Tour. I'm jinxing us. I wonder if anybody's been Corn Ferry Tour Rookie of the Year and then been PGA Tour Rookie of the Year. That would be some nice hardware to have if he ever buys a house.
That would be fantastic. Now, Bobby, who you got?
Yeah. I'm taking S.H. Kim.
I'm gonna go with the other guy on the other end of the Rookie of the Year, Eric Cole.
Eric Cole. Yeah, that's a good match. I like that. That's going to be a good match. Two great guys. I can't root against Eric Cole. He's a great story. His dad played on tour. His mom's Laura Baugh. Remember, she was like the hot chick right back in the day in the LPGA. She actually brought sex to the LPGA tour, if that makes any sense. She was super, super sexy. So he's bred to be a champion. And that's a great pick. That's a great pick.
You were talking about Sungjae and Siwoo, which they dominated over in China. Talk to us about that, Bobby.
Well, okay. So the deal with that is that, as most people should know, that if you are a Korean citizen, you have to do 2 years of mandatory military service by the time you are 30 years old. No ifs, ands, or buts. It has to be done, right? There are ways of getting out of that. Okay, getting an Olympic medal will get you out of that. Okay. The winning the Pan Am Games will get you out of that. Cage Lee has done something like that. Sung Kang has done something like that. And a player we used to have out here named Wee Kim, another Korean, has done something like that. Or now they just started these Asian games where they just re-included golf into the Asian game. So it's a 4-man team representing your countries from Asia, 2 professionals and 2 amateurs, and whoever wins the gold medal, they will be exempt from Korean military service. So that's a huge deal. I'll tell you what, that's why a huge deal, because I work for those guys and they freak out because they see what happened to Sang Moon Bae and what happened to S.Y. No, right? And Korea is a little different than us. You don't dish your country. You don't take American citizenship and get out of the military that way and expect to be welcome back in your country. You are absolutely blackballed, and it doesn't go over well. So 30 years old, you have to do it by the time you're 30 years old. And Siwoo is actually 29. So they won the gold medal. They dominated. They won by 25 shots, 74 under par or something. They won by 25 shots or 26 shots. Now, they still do have to do some basic training, which lasts anywhere from 15 to 21 days, which is no big deal. Man, I would love to have a video of Sungjae doing basic training.
Do you think he can climb one of those like military walls?
No, I don't. Hey, listen, I'll tell you what, his body is built the way it is, but he is very fitness oriented and very dedicated to the gym. And he started doing that when I started working with him, and he doesn't really have that paunch belly that he used to have. And I can't see Siwoo doing military service. He's too much of a character. He's a little bit soft. We tried to watch him some years ago. We bet him.
Do you think he'd say that to the government over there? I'm player champ, bro.
What? Well, I don't think they can take it. I don't think it'd be wise to do something like that. But we bet him some years ago that he couldn't do 10 push-ups, and he couldn't do 10 push-ups.
Even I can do 10 push-ups.
That should. Yeah, there you go. But my 6-year-old can. They're cheater push-ups, but geez, I wonder if I could. I probably couldn't. But that was absolutely the biggest relief for that. The biggest relief for those two guys, and I couldn't be happier for them, especially Siwoo. It was coming down to the last year. He's going to have a baby. His wife is 1 month pregnant right now.
You have your rule about when a newborn comes into play.
Yeah, but I don't know if that goes with the Koreans yet, though.
Well, does he have his house over here in the U.S.?
He's got a massive house.
I got a feeling it's still going to affect him. Now, if she was back over in Korea and he's playing over here and the kid's over there, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. No, she was a superstar on the ladies PGA, right? She's won numerous times on the Well, you saw her take the shot at the par
Oh,
three
you're right.
contest at
Yeah.
Augusta, right? When she stopped it. Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I was telling somebody today. I go, I think she is the best pregnant golfer in the world. She could be the best pregnant golfer in the world. That's for sure. So congratulations to those guys. That's just absolutely huge. And honestly, that happens every 4 years, and I would imagine that my guy's probably thinking about that too, to tell you the truth, because unless there's obviously the two Korean amateurs. I don't know what their names are. I could guess and probably get close to it, but they also played fantastic too. I think all four of those guys were in the top 10 or the top 12 or something like that. So that was pretty
Well, there was a
exciting for
little
those
bit of
guys, and they got to be.
controversy you were telling me about the fact that
Uh,
this tournament got moved back a year,
oh
and Tom
yeah, I got to
Kim
tell you
was
that.
somebody who was
Yeah,
actually technically was supposed to have
right.
one of those spots.
So yeah, so you said it right there. There was some scheduling changes with this, and so when the cutoff date was for the highest world ranking or points, whatever they do, I'm pretty sure it's world ranking. It was a unanimous Siwoo, a unanimous Sungjae Siwoo in that order, and then they canceled it and pushed it back a year. And in that time, Tom Kim had passed Siwoo on the points list. So they now everybody was like, okay, so now Tom's going to go, but I guess the Korean Golf Federation said no. Siwoo had already qualified. He's the guy to go, and I don't think Tom Kim. Excuse me. I don't think Tom Kim was very happy about that. But rest assured, I would imagine maybe Tom Kim and S.H. Kim will be partners
I
on
was
that
thinking
in
the
4 years,
same
right?
thing, Bobby. I'm like, oh, the
Yeah,
stars are
yeah,
aligning for
yeah,
a SH Kim
yeah.
and Tom Kim, and I think we
Uh-huh.
might have very similar results to what I would actually think the competition would be if they could see if they could shoot a lower number than than
Yes.
Sungjae and Siwoo. So there you
Yeah,
go.
exactly. So that was pretty. That was some more golf news. That was some more golf news too. So we got plenty of
Love
golf
that. I
going
love
on,
when we
man.
get to add in a little international flavor with the South Koreans.
Yeah,
It's always just makes me
exactly.
feel good
There you go.
about, the global aspect to the game. But let's tie this
Yeah.
episode up. I mean, we got a few events coming up.
Okay.
Certainly
Yeah, we do.
obviously the Sanderson Farms that we've already talked about, but then you're going to Shriners. I'm gonna have to let you know if I'm gonna be able to make it up. Um,
Yeah, please do.
and you
Yeah,
said
let me
that
know.
Wednesday would be the day, right? Not Tuesday, or is it Tuesday? Okay.
Tuesday would be the day. Wednesday's a pro am. Well, Wednesday's a pro am day. It would be tough to get you to walk inside the ropes with all these
Yeah,
amateurs and
you
balls
really wouldn't
flying
want
everywhere. We
that.
can't have you taking a targets to the dome. But Tuesday would be the day that would be great for you to walk. Would be great for you to walk with us. Oh, good news! My son and Pierre. I got to
Yeah.
correct you on something. Last week we were talking about Pearson and Parker Cootie and where they stood on the priority list, and I think I confused you because you're like, well, they said one of them's. I assumed you were talking
Oh no,
about
Pearson.
Parker.
Yeah.
Pearson is locked. Pearson is locked at number 6, but Parker is kind of mathematically locked at number 20
How about
also.
that?
So
Both
because there's only,
brothers get on with their
yeah,
PGA Tour
yeah,
cards. That'd be pretty sweet.
yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, they're both going to get on. That's for sure. They're both really, really good, and they're going to be obviously with their grandfather being Charles Cootie. They're going to be very marketable. The press is going to make a big deal about it. But my point is that Daniel just called me. My son Daniel called me a couple days ago and told me they got a spot into Vegas, Pearson Cootie. So the Corn, we missed it, but the Corn Ferry Tour Championship is playing this week at a fantastic golf course, Victoria National in Indiana. And it's only 75 guys. It's triple points. The guy that I've been raving about, Carter Jenkins, is about number
You do love
25 or
yourself some
26.
Carter
So
Jenkins.
it, I love me some Carter Jenkins, my man. God, do I love me some Carter Jenkins. So I get to hang out with my son next week, and I've been waiting for this pairing with a father and son pairing. If it's ever
Come on,
going to
PGA Tour,
happen,
put them
it'll happen
together.
sometime. Yeah, yeah. Well, they're in different categories. They're in different categories. You know what I mean? So, like guys that get sponsors exemptions or Monday qualifiers, or guys that are back of the bus on the reshuffle, the category that we're in, get paired together. So we're in another group. But I meant like a Saturday or Sunday pairing. I could show the
There
kid
you
how to
go.
caddy.
And
Yeah.
certainly, so we've got that coming up next week, and then next week we also
Yep.
have Live Golf. Is it Jeddah? I
Oh, is
can't
that next
freaking say
week?
the name correctly for the life of me, and I haven't heard anybody actually
Right.
say it that I can remember. But Jeddah, so they're
Right.
going to Saudi Arabia. They're all flying over.
Right.
They're going to play there.
Is this
No,
the is Do they only have 2 more left? Is it this and then the
Yes, that's
Miami
correct.
tournament, right?
So this was
Gotcha.
supposed to be
And
the
then
final, and then there was a backlash with the players. They're like, "Come on, man, let's have the final be back in Miami again."
Yeah.
So they're going to go back to Miami.
Yeah,
But an
yeah.
interesting thing, did you see the schedule for next year?
Is there a
Yeah.
schedule dropped, or is
No,
there
it
just no? I don't think there's an official schedule that dropped. I think they're just talking about going to all these different countries.
No,
aren't they?
there's actual golf courses because it was very interesting to see the PGA Tour influence already taking precedent to where there are no Trump golf courses.
Trumpy golf. I did read that. And I would be shocked if they went to. They're talking about going to South Korea, but I would be shocked if they went to South Korea because South Korea disowned, Danny Lee and Kevin Na years ago. But maybe they got somebody with some big money that wants to pull up something like that. But there you go. There's the PGA Tour influence coming in right there, and no Trumpy. And also on a side note, isn't there stories going around that the Fenway group has contacted the PGA Tour saying that if the PIF thing falls through, that they like to help invest in the PGA Tour. Have you heard about that one going around?
So I haven't heard that, but they do already have their hand in with the TGL League, and they own the Boston franchise.
Yeah. Well, Google that up when you get a chance this week. We'll talk about that next week. So I don't know if that means there's a problem with this PIF going on or what the deal is, but the good news is that we get to see fucking Perez get relegated. He's number 27. He's going down. Bitch, he's going down.
What are the spots that get relegated? You know this better than I do.
Yeah, top 24 state and/or captains.
So he is on the relegation line right now.
Yeah, he's on the relegation list too. And remember, we were talking. I was wondering, does Brooks have enough power to keep his brother on the team? Well, his brother came out and did an interview and said, "Hey, it's all on me now. I got to play my way in to stay."
I heard that too. I'm still not buying it.
Yeah, we'll see. I just want fucking Perez to get hammered. Then where's he going to go? He's going to be playing with you out in Mount Shadows.
Could you imagine?
Well, you're associated with me, so he doesn't like you.
that has been stated by him. 2 messages. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, I can hardly wait. Then what's his skank ass wife gonna do?
Well, there you go, folks. That is the ending. I know our hardcore fans was absolutely dying for, because there's been several of you that have been in the DMs lately to the Pull Hook Golf Instagram account asking for some more stuff to be said about PP, I like to refer to him as, and that crowd. Right. So without further ado, Bobby, thank you so much for your time, my man. Have a great week. Buddy. Good luck, even though we're going to be competing against each other. And until next week, and I will let you know if I'm going to come in, because then if I do show up on Tuesday, we can actually do the show live. Yeah, let me know. I'm staying. I get in late Sunday night, so I'll be there. Right, Keep me posted, buddy. I will chat with you soon. All right, man. And thank you for tuning in to Season 2 of the Pull Hook Golf Podcast. Make sure to hit subscribe and go to www.pullhookgolf.com